Hey everyone, got a bit of a special video for you today. I'll be doing viewer account reviews, including helping with builds, showing off builds, and also answering some Q&A questions in between. So this will be a fairly long video with a lot of yapping, so maybe you can treat it like a podcast or something and just toss it on in the background while you do other things. I'll do my best to narrate the details I'm seeing so that you don't have to keep looking at the screen too much in case you're multitasking. And a quick disclaimer, I'm not an expert at all things Genshin, nor do I own or know how to play every single character or team. I'll be researching the characters and teams accordingly so that I can help you out the best that I can. And if anyone watching this video has any additional advice for the builds, or if you feel that what I said was inaccurate, feel free to comment down below. Alright, no more dilly-dallying, let's jump right into the first profile. So here we have a viewer named Kumo, and they did leave some notes here in their application. They mentioned, I'm a Venti main and he is my favorite character. I built him as a hybrid between support and DPS. They also need help with Bursa, Chiori, and Navia builds. Alright, so we can definitely take a look at these builds here. So they said they are a Venti main, which is awesome. Love to see that. I don't own Venti or really know how to play him, so I apologize if my Venti knowledge is a little lacking. Here we have Venti level 90. He is on a R2 elegy for the end. And then we've got a 4-piece Viridescent right here and C1. And then the talents are Double Crowned, Skill, and Burst. So let's take a look at the stats here. So they said that they use him as a hybrid between support and DPS. So we've got a crit ratio of 65 to 152, which is pretty good, I think, considering that they're not a pure DPS and the ER is 201. So, I mean, in terms of a hybrid build, it looks pretty good to me. Like I said, I don't know much about Venti. If any of you have any other opinions or any suggestions for this build, feel free to leave it in the comments below. But yeah, I mean, to me the stats look pretty well rounded, and of course the R2 weapon here is going to be giving a bit higher of a stat boost. Let's take a look at the artifacts here, actually, starting with the flower. Yeah, I mean, these are some really solid rolls, and with the feather, pretty much full rolls into crit, which we love to see. Their EM sand is also really good. It's pretty tough to get a good EM sand nowadays, I think. Attack goblet. I don't know if attack goblet is better than like animo damage goblet. I don't really know much. But I mean, the rolls, circlet, also solid. So yeah, overall, I think the Venti build is really, really solid. And then they also wanted help with Bursa, Chiori, and Navia build. So let's look at Bursa first here. She's only level 80, so definitely want to level her up to 90. That's number one. And then she is on a R2 level 90 with Sith. Personally, I hate using the with Sith because I hate the RNG of the passive effect, but I feel like it's like the only and also the best free-to-play catalyst there is. So yeah, there's not much you can do about that. And then artifacts, we've got a 4-piece Long Night's Oath, which is Bursa's plunging attack artifact. We'll take a look at the stats in a second. And then she is C0. So then in terms of her full stats, we've got a 70 to 192 crit ratio, which, I mean, honestly, I think that's pretty good. Her ER is also 123%. I don't think Bursa's ER requirements are like super high. The artifact rolls look pretty good to me. Like, I think these are solid. Like, there's not too much wasted substats, I guess, except for this Electro Goblet here, but it has high enough of a crit damage roll. I feel like it's like no big deal, honestly. And then the crit rate circlet is also really solid. So, you know, I don't have too much to say about your Bursa build. I think it's really solid for a free-to-play build. Let's take a look at Navia. Love Navia. She's also level 80, so definitely want to get her to 90 to maximize her personal damage here. She is on a level 80 Serpent Spine. Also want to level that to 90 to get that increased crit rate and base attack, of course. And then artifacts, we've got a 2-piece Nighttime Whispers and 2-piece Golden Troop. Even though Nighttime Whispers is her like signature artifact set, I'm also running her on a 2-piece Nighttime, 2-piece Golden Troop, and I feel like it's been okay for me so far. If your artifact rolls here are pretty good, then you don't really need to change it unless you're looking to like really min-max Navia. and she is C0. Let's take a look at the full stat details here. So we've got crit rate 49, damage 220, energy recharge 109. So I think my only comment here would be to increase the crit rate just a bit, because you really don't want to miss Navia's big shotgun skills. You kind of want to make sure that both of them crit, because if one or even both of them don't crit, that is a pretty massive DPS loss there. So I think it's worth it to sacrifice a little bit of the crit damage in order to get a higher crit rate. And also 109 ER is a little bit on the low end. I don't think it's like a huge deal breaker. It also depends on your teammates, like if you have a Favonius user or another Geo character. So if you find that you're not able to burst every rotation, I do recommend increasing her ER just a tad. But overall, your Navia build is 100% on the right track. Just a few tweaks could make her a little bit more consistent. And lastly, for Kumo, we've got Chiori. So Chiori level 80, again, let's level her up to level 90. And then she is on her signature weapon, the Uraku Misugiri, level 80. We want to max that out to level 90 as well. And then the artifacts, we only got a 2-piece golden troop going on here and no other artifact set bonuses, so we definitely want to run her on a 4-piece golden troop because her off-field skill damage is where her damage lies. So I think you can farm for the golden troop a little bit more here. And then she is at C0, so you know, I'm sure you already know, but important thing is to use Chiori with another Geo construct character such as Zhongli or Kachina, to name a few. Not that she's unusable at C0 without a Geo construct, but it will just like basically double her damage. It is something to consider. And then for her full stats, we've got a crit ratio of 62 to 226. I mean, I think that's pretty solid. Again, you could consider increasing the crit rate just a little bit, just for more consistent damage, but not the end of the world. So taking a look at your artifacts here, I'm assuming that you haven't spent too much time farming it, just from like the lack of a 4-piece set. So yeah, there's not too much for me to comment on. I'm sure that your build will improve once you're able to get some dedicated golden troop pieces going on over here. Thank you so much, Kumo, for applying for an account review. I hope I said at least one thing that was helpful. Alright, so now with that, I'm gonna go with the first Q&A question. I think it'll be a good balance to kind of slide them in between the account reviews. So the first question I have here is, what made you play or go into Genshin, HSR, and ZZZ? It was my girlfriend who introduced me to Genshin, so that was like 2023, and she was an avid Genshin player basically since release, essentially. And although I had heard about Genshin, I never really like went around to playing it. But yeah, so basically my girlfriend introduced me to the game. She taught me how to play. I still distinctly remember her like showing me like what wishing is and like how it works, and I was so confused. I was like, what is the point of this? I don't understand this. Who are all these characters? As someone who doesn't watch anime or indulge in any other like anime related stuff, it did take a moment for me to get used to the characters, and now I could probably name the characters like by their shoes or something, so how the tables have turned. But anyway, so yeah, it was my girlfriend who got me into Genshin, and then she also played HSR, so she urged me to try that game as well. And then ZZZ was just, you know, new Hoyu game. It was a cool premise with the whole urban sort of environment going on, so I started ZZZ just because it seemed interesting, and I really love the game now. So I owe it to my girlfriend introducing me to these soul-sucking gacha games, both a blessing and a curse. I'm sure you guys all understand. Alright, so moving on to the second profile here, we've got Uwu with a heart. They are AR56 and world level 8, which I forgot to mention in the first profile. So they said that they needed some help with team comps, and also let me know if I need to change any artifacts. They also mentioned that they've been playing on and off, so talent levels aren't high. In terms of team comps, taking a look at your characters here, I think your first row, I don't know if this is the freeze team that you're using. Overall, it's a pretty good freeze team. Of course, having Escoffier would change the game just a little bit, but it's not required by any means, so don't feel like obligated to pull for Escoffier if you don't really want to. If you are using Sitlali on your Skirk Freeze team, her role is a little bit wasted because she is just such a good melt support for Mavuika. So in that sense, I would say it might be better off to use a healer on your Skirk Freeze team, such as Charlotte, because she can hold Thrilling Tales to improve your Skirk's attack, and her healing will provide plenty of stacks for Furina's burst. So that's my main recommendation for your freeze team. Although let me take a look at your Skirk here. So yeah, I see why you're using Sitlali. It's because you do have the Calamity of Ishu weapon, which does require that shield, so I totally understand. Also, I never realized this weapon looks really good on Skirk. So I totally understand that it might be a little tough to change Sitlali out of this team. I don't know if maybe you might consider using Layla as your cryo shielder if you want to free up your Sitlali for your Mavuika team. You could think about doing something like that. If you are able to free up your Sitlali, you can do Mavuika, Sitlali, Bennett, and fourth character, I don't know, maybe Kazuha. Although I'd notice you have Kaniche as well, so maybe you might be using Mavuika as a Kaniche support and sub DPS. Okay, but let me just go on into the builds. So we've got Furina level 90. She is on a R1 Wolfang level 80. Let's take a look at her stats here. So problem here is that Furina's ER at C0 is only 122. You're gonna definitely want to increase her ER. I know her crit ratio looks good with the Wolfang on her, but you're probably gonna want to give her an ER weapon such as the Fleuve-Songe Ferryman, which is the Fontaine fishing weapon. I know fishing sucks, but that weapon is Furina's best free-to-play weapon, honestly, if you don't have any previous event weapons. So she's on the 4-piece Golden Troop, which of course is a given. I can see here that you could potentially optimize her artifacts just a little bit more. I don't see too many ER rolls going on. You definitely want to increase the ER. It kind of depends based on what kind of team you're running her on. Like if you have a double Hydra or if you have Favonius user. You could also use Favonius on Furina if you don't want to farm for the fishing weapon. But for Furina, if you're running her solo Hydro, you're going to want 200% ER, and then, you know, anywhere between 150 to 200 based on if you have other like Hydro or other ER weapon teammates. And then looking at your Skirk, again, we do want to level up the weapon to level 90 if you have the resources. It will make a difference. And then her artifact set is Marechaussee, which is perfectly fine considering you are probably using her with Furina. She is C0, and then her crit ratio at 47 to 187 is really solid. However, she has a lot of ER, and ER is completely wasted on Skirk, so try your best to lower that ER, get those ER rolls into other stats such as crit or attack. So taking a look at your artifacts here, overall I think the artifacts are okay. You just kind of need some minor optimizing. Yeah, just some minor optimizing, some more crit stats, and little to no ER stats is recommended. And then I completely forgot to touch on the talent levels, but of course you guys do want to be leveling up your talent levels based on the recommendations that you can find in the game. At least level 8 will probably be the way to go. And then I'll just review like your Skirk team maybe. We've got Yelan here. If you have the resources, definitely level her up to level 90 since she's only level 80. And then Fave, Warbow, like maybe at least level 80 would be recommended here. And then if you have any additional refinements, getting it up from R2 to R5 would be a big help to your team ER. And then she's on a 4-piece emblem, which is solid, and then C0. So for her stats, honestly, I think her stats look okay. The ER is fairly high. Overall, not too much complaints here with your Yelan. Lastly, we've got Sitlali. You can leave her at level 80. I don't really think you need to level her to 90. She is on a R4, level 80 sacrificial fragments, which is pretty good for like ER, I suppose. You could potentially run her on Thrilling Tales if you want to invest further into your Skirk. And then we've got a 4-piece Cinder City, which is good. I'm not going to look at the substats too much for the artifacts, but overall I think it's pretty good. I don't know if this is enough ER to get the burst up every rotation. If the sacrificial fragments works to your favor, maybe it is. Same with the Favonius, but you may or may not want to consider some additional ER here. Thank you so much for showing me your profile. Sorry I can get to your other characters, but in answering your other question here, you lost your last 50-50, so any character recommendation would help. Honestly, I don't really want to recommend anyone on your current roster right away just because nod-krai is coming up and you might want to get a new character then, right? So hopefully you found something helpful from what I said here. Thank you so much and good luck with your builds. Our next Q&A, question 1 is, how long have you been playing gacha games? Genshin was my very first gacha game, so I started that in 2023, so it's been just about 2 years. And of course the other gachas I play are HSR and ZZZ. And then although these aren't like gacha games by definition, some other similarly like live service sort of character collection type of games that I have played in the past is Brawl Stars. I was a pretty serious Brawl Stars player since they launched. I played that game for maybe 4 years or so. I don't really play anymore, but I would consider it one of my favorite games overall. And then I did have a stint with Pokemon Unite, and although I did love that game, it made me so tilted. There was a lot of rage quitting in that game, so I think it was unhealthy for me, so I stopped playing Pokemon Unite, but I did love it. And then sort of a Jinju Garden origin story here is that the very first kind of serious game that I played other than Nintendo or Pokemon games was Maple Story, for the few of you who might know what Maple Story is. And actually one reason that I like Genshin so much is because it kind of reminds me of Maple Story in a way. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but yeah, so those are kind of my history with gacha games and or gacha adjacent types of games. And who is my all-time favorite character? I cannot just choose one, so I'll choose 3, which is Furina, Arlecchino, and Raiden Shogun. What's the most you've spent on a character? And that is probably my C6 Furina. However, in my defense, I did get her C6 over the course of 3 banners. So it was it took a year or so to get all 6 constellations and then her signature weapon, of course. Follow-up question to that is, will you ever R5 Furina? And the answer to that is no. And the next question is, which character have you regretted pulling? Taking a look at my character archive here, I don't think there's anyone that I truly regret. I guess the characters that I just don't use as much anymore are Linny, and then I never really used Kazuha too much to begin with. However, I got Kazuha on a pretty early pull, so I don't regret it. Same with Linny, he was my first limited character, so of course he was really helpful to me in the early game, so I don't regret it. And plus, I really like Linny anyway. Honestly, I can't say that there's any character that I truly regret. What is your favorite part about Genshin? I'd say, of course, I love the exploration and the quests and the lore and stuff. I'd say probably my favorite part is the characters and getting to learn their stories. I think the variety of Genshin's cast, variety in their designs and their stories is what keeps bringing me back to the game. So yeah, I'll just say it's the characters. I really like so many things about Genshin. Alright, so our next profile here is IDK, and they wanted to show off their Novelette and Arlecchino build, so I'm excited to see that. They are AR58 and World level 9. So taking a look at Arlecchino, she is level 90. She is on a level 80 Primordial Jadewing Spear, R1. And then she is on a 4-piece Gladiator and C0. And talents are Crowned Normal Attack and Crowned Burst. Awesome. So then taking a look at the stats, crit ratio of 81 to 191. I think that's really solid, especially because it seems like you've got sort of a free-to-play build going on with your Jadewing Spear polearm. I guess I could say that you might want to level this up to level 90 just to increase that crit rate and the base attack. And then taking a look at the artifacts here, really solid flower, really solid feather, Taxans, pretty solid Pyro Goblet. I guess there is a lack of crit rate here, but I know those are tough. And then really good crit rate Circlet. So yeah, overall, your Arlecchino build is really solid. Okay, and then we've got Novelette. I don't have Novelette. I don't know too much about his build requirements, but he is level 90 He does have his signature weapon at R1 level 90. And then we've got a 4-piece Marechaussee and C0. And the talents are 10, 6, 8. So looking at the stats here, whoa, okay, that's insane. We've got 38 crit rate, but we can't forget about the 36% crit rate bonus from Marechaussee. And the crit damage is 340. Not gonna lie, I didn't even know that was possible. So let's take a look at these cracked artifacts if that's the case. So flower, really good rolls here. Feather, that crit damage roll is kind of insane. It's interesting that you have a off-piece feather though. But I mean with rolls like that. Then HP Sands, you know, also pretty solid. HP Goblet, also really good crit rolls. Is Novelet better on an HP Goblet than a Hydro Goblet? I'm not sure. Like, I'm asking because I don't know. And then your crit circlet is, you know, not bad either. But I am surprised at how you were able to get 340 crit damage. That is crazy. Great job. I have nothing further to say. So our next question here is, what inspired you to make cozy Genshin content, and will you ever make 1 hour plus videos? To answer the second part of your question, I do have a couple of 1 hour plus videos, with this video also being 1 hour plus. I'll definitely try to make some long content as well in between my shorter content. So thank you so much for having interest in that. And then what inspired me to make cozy Genshin content was that I just kind of came across a cozy Genshin video like kind of randomly. I think it just kind of popped up on my feed, and then after watching it, you know, I liked it because it was more casual and like chill than, you know, like a build guide or like some sort of Genshin tutorial, but it also wasn't loud or obnoxious like other gameplay videos that you might find. And I always liked cozy gaming videos like for Animal Crossing and stuff, so I just felt this was like right up my alley. I always wanted to make YouTube or gaming content, but I wasn't really ever sure like what kind of game or where to start. So I'm really grateful that I stumbled upon the cozy Genshin community here and that I decided to take the plunge. I'm like a nerd at heart and I love the intersection of like technology and art, so I think my cozy gaming channel is like a really good balance of the two, so that's kind of what keeps me going as well. For our next profile, we've got Anti or Anti. Not sure how to pronounce that. They requested some help with character builds. Here is sort of a rundown of the note that they left me. They said that they mainly need help with the artifacts on my main team, which is the first row of characters, Kaya, Venti, Changyun, and Xingqiu. I struggle to get enough quality 5-star artifacts to use on my characters, so I use a mix of 5 and 4-star. Main thing is I never know what sets are good for these characters, specifically in the roles I place them in. And then the characters in the last row are characters that they're planning on leveling and building later. Okay, and then they also have some additional team building questions, which I'll get to after taking a look at their first freeze team here. Oh, and I forgot to mention they are AR 50 and world level 6. All right, so I have not looked at a Kaya build in like ever, so this will be interesting. Kaya's level 90. He's on a R2 prototype Rancor level 90. We've got a 4-piece Blizzard Strayer with a couple of 5-star and 4-star artifacts here. He is C3, which is pretty impressive, I think. Talents are fully crowned, so that's also very impressive. And then here are the stats. We've got a 52 to 99 crit ratio, 126% of ER. I don't know too much about Kaya, to be honest, so let me like quickly just look up his build here. All right, so taking a look at Kaya's build guide, I'm not sure if this is enough ER. I'm seeing here that a double cryo freeze team only really requires like 125 to 130 ER if your Kaya is on field, so maybe this is enough ER. Can't really comment too much on that, so sorry. I will say that for the weapon, I don't know if prototype is really the best weapon for him. simply because of the physical damage bonus, and I'm assuming that you're probably like spamming some normal attacks on him or something, which is fine, I guess, but I don't know if you might want to consider changing the weapon to something that will benefit his more important stats. You could potentially use an R5 Harbinger of Dawn, which is a 3-star weapon, but it does have a crit main stat there. Another potential option I'm seeing is also Finale of the Deep. If there are any other Kaya mains watching this, please help me out if there's anything that they need to change with their Kaya build. For the artifacts, of course you do want to try to get the 5-star artifacts, but I think Blizzard Strayer is the right set to use here. So taking a look here at the substats, yeah, so I don't think Kaya is HP scaling, so you definitely want to change your sand to an attack sand, so that's number 1. And then cryo damage is the goblet that he uses, and then the circlet is pretty solid too. You could, hold on to the 4 stars up until you get 5 stars with like similar to better substats, but those 4 levels between 16 and 20 will definitely help, especially for something like the feather. Yeah, other than that, I feel like the rest of your stuff is okay. Just focus on those 5-star artifacts and that attack sand. Taking a look at Venti over here, level 80 out of 90. R3 level 90 Favonius Warbow. And then he is on a 4-piece Viridescent, which is good, and C0. In terms of the Viridescent, obviously 5-star artifacts. I think it's a good investment of your resin. I know it might take a while, but I'm sure you will find something. And then you have another HP sand here, which I don't know if you're using that because you feel like you're dying frequently or something, or you feel like your HP falls low, but HP sand will do, nothing to help them with their damage. With your Venti being on this freeze team, he's not really getting any like reactions. So with the assumption that you're relying on him for some animo damage, you might want to change his sands to an attack sands. And then his stats, we've got a 55 to 78 crit ratio and 193 ER. I think the ER feels pretty solid. And again, if you are able to upgrade some of his artifacts, I think his crit ratio will be a little bit better. If you're wanting to use him as a reactionary character, then you might want to focus on EM. Venti mains in the comments, please let me know if anything I said was inaccurate or if you're able to offer better advice for this player. And then Chongyun, I love Chongyun. He's level 80, so if you have resources, level 90 is good. He is on a sacrificial greatsword, which I think could be okay if you're using him as a support character. And then he's on the Blizzard Strayer. I will say that Chongyun is a little bit better as a support on a freeze team. His DPS is only really good on a melt team with a pyro character, so I think for his artifact set you might want to use something like Noblesse, especially because you don't have any other buffing characters on your freeze team. And I'm sounding like a broken record, but of course 5-star artifacts will help you quite a lot here. Then taking a look, Flower looks okay. Any 5-star upgrades to these would help. So yeah, but other than that, I feel like it looks okay to me. Your Chongyun, oopsies, I accidentally exited. So yeah, the crit ratio is 39 to 82 with a 146 ER. Lastly, I'll look over your Xingqiu. He's level 80. He's on a level 90 sacrificial sword, which is good. He is on a 2-piece Emblem of Severed Fate, so you definitely want to get this up to a 4-piece. Okay, we've got another HP sand here. Not useful on Xingqiu at all for his damage, so you might want to change this to an ER sand. If he has a 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate, I think the ER sand is helpful to his attack anyway. Let's change your HP sands over to attack or ER for all of your characters here. Trust me, that will do a pretty big difference in your damage. If you feel like you're struggling with staying alive or something, you could add a healer to the team. Then this player also had another question here, which was, what character do you think should take Razor's spot on the second team with Yoimiya, Toma, and Sucrose? I usually just sub in Xingqiu, but I need him for the freeze team, so it doesn't work for endgame content like Spiral. I was considering Shinobu, but I don't know if an overload team is even viable nowadays. Okay, so answering the overload team part, overload is only viable if you have a Shebrus. If you don't have a Shebrus, then I don't think it's worth it to use overload. Not really. Taking a look at some of Yoimiya's teams, I want to say that a Yoimiya vape team will probably be the best. Yeah, it is tough. I know that you want to use your Xingqiu for your freeze team. I see you have a Siegewein also, so you could potentially make use of your Siegewein as a hydro applicator and healer. You could consider putting Xingqiu on your Yoimiya team and then your Siegewein on your freeze team, just based on what I'm assuming with your HP sands that you've got going on there. Honestly, that's kind of the main piece of advice I can give you. I feel like Yoimiya is probably best on a vaporized team anyway, so you're gonna want to slot in a hydro there. Thank you so much, Anti or Anti, for submitting your profile for review here. Good luck with your builds and have fun with the game. And then, so for our next Q&A, I have two similar questions here. First question I have here is, to an aspiring content creator, any tips you would like to give? I mainly have issues recording my voice. I just cringe at hearing myself. Okay, so I also had that same problem when I started. I think a lot of people don't like hearing the sound of their own voice, but I will say, literally after editing my first video and like listening to my voice for hours on end as I was like editing the clips and re-watching the clips and stuff, I got over that cringe factor like real fast. So honestly, if you just do it, trust me, you'll probably get over it. Now, 20 plus videos in, I like don't give a crap about listening to my own voice anymore. Next question is, do you have any tips for anyone wanting to start their own Genshin channel, specifically in regards to gaining the confidence to actually post and not being afraid of being judged? I don't know if you struggled with any of that at first, but if you have any ideas on how to improve or overcome that sort of thing, I'd be very grateful. Yeah, so I did struggle with the confidence to make my first video, mainly because I felt awkward or unconfident about my voice, or knowing what to say, or even just feeling like I'd be wrong in my opinions or like a bad player or something. Over time, you'll definitely get better at speaking or script writing or editing or researching or whatever else that you need to do to make your content. No one expects you to be perfect at the start. And you also won't be able to please every single person regardless, so you don't need to put that burden on yourself either. You just have to start and the rhythm will come in time, I swear. And I know it's really cliche to say, but starting is always the hardest part, but after you make your first video, I promise it'll be leagues easier in terms of like that mental obstacle. And then in terms of the YouTube community, I'll just say that everyone here is much kinder and eager to help than you might think. And in our little tight-knit, cozy Genshin community, I think we're all a bit more gracious to each other. So if that's the type of community you want to create with your content, you just have to encourage it. And I hope that you can move past being afraid of judgment, because I don't think it's something that needs to be feared, especially if you have enough passion and love for what you're doing. Even so, I think that constructive criticism is always healthy for any creator. So don't be afraid of catalysts for improvement, even if it comes disguised as negativity. Right, so for our next profile, we've got Sat. They said that they wanted to show off their character builds. They are AR60, role level 9, and here it says that they're saving for C6 Furina. Love to see it, love to see it. So they said they wanted to show off their Raiden, Yelan, Furina, Shenhe, and Miko builds. So let's take a look. So Raiden Shogun, level 90 Engulfing Lightning, 4-piece emblem, C0, and then looking at their overall stats, 61 to 156 crit ratio, I think is really solid for Raiden, on top of the 277 ER. Honestly, I have, nothing much to say. That's a really solid build. The flower is like perfect substats, so that's amazing. The feather, also amazing. ER sand, really, really solid. And then we've got an attack goblet. I don't know if an attack goblet is better or worse than an electro goblet, but either way, the goblet, like, it's a good goblet. So, and then your crit rate circlet, also really good. Yeah, I mean, I have nothing much to say. I think this is a really, really solid build. So, great job. And then Yelan, level 90. Aqua Simulacra, level 90. We've got the 4-piece emblem and C1 Yelan. And I keep forgetting to scroll down to the talents, but Raiden was double crowned skill and burst. Yelan is the same, double crowned skill and burst. And then looking at the stats here, we've got a 70 to 260 crit ratio with a 166 ER. I think that's like really, really good. Your crit damage is really high. Flower is really solid. Oh my god, sorry, I keep saying like the same things. I'm like not very creative in my reactions, but this is like perfect substat roll here on your feather. HP sand, that's a lot of crit rate. And your hydro goblet is kind of crazy. This is kind of a cracked hydro goblet, so I'm jealous. And then your crit damage circlet is also quite solid. Yeah, and then she has 30k HP here. I'd love to see Yelan enjoyers out here. I think your Yelan is really awesome. And then next, I also wanted to show off their furina. We've got a level 90 furina, R1 Splendor of Tranquil Waters, 4-piece Golden Troop. We have a C2 furina over here. And then 1-10-10 talents. So taking a look at their stats, 65 to 232 crit ratio. Really good. And they also have really high ER at 181, so that's pretty impressive, getting that high of a crit damage but also really solid ER. I find that for Furina builds, it's a little tricky to get really high crit ratios on top of a high ER. Same problem I have with Raiden, but anyway. And of course, Furina, you need a lot of HP too, so yeah, I mean... Okay, I see. So she has an ER sand rather than an HP sand, which is where a lot of that ER is coming from. But honestly, I think it's fine. I think her ER is like arguably more important than a little bit more HP. The rest of your artifacts are really good. Your crit circlet is really good too. Yeah, I'll give this build 5 stars. And then we've got Shenhe right here. I don't know. I don't have Shenhe, so I don't know too much about her build. But we've got level 90 Calamity Queller, 2-piece attack sets, C0 and 2-10-9 talents. And then her ER is 199, which I mean sounds like a good build to me. I'm so sorry, I can't really comment more on this build just simply because I don't know much about Shenhe. But if any viewers in the comments, any Shenhe mains wanna give their 2 cents or wanna congratulate this person, feel free. And then lastly, their Miko build. Miko is one of my favorite characters for sure, so love to see it. So we've got a level 90 Miko, level 90 Kagura's Verity. We have a 2-piece electro damage and a 2-piece attack artifact, C0, and then 1-10-9 talents. And then for her stats, 52 to 246 crit ratio is quite good. That crit damage is really, really high. And then 136 ER, I think that is perfectly fine as well. So yeah, really solid builds here. Wait, I'm struggling to... And then for your artifacts, taking a look here. Attack sand, really high crit damage roll there. Thank you so much, Sat, for showing off your builds, and good luck with your C6 Furina. Next question, is there any possibilities that you offer support with building and improving accounts in the future? I'm assuming you mean like if I'm gonna log into your accounts and like fix anybody's accounts, and the answer to that is probably not, at least for a while, mainly because I play Genshin on the PS5 and it's just really annoying to log into another account, like another Genshin account on the PS5. Not only do you need to have a PlayStation account connected to your Genshin account, but like I need to make like a whole profile on my device for you. Yeah, so I'm so sorry about that. But if I one day get a PC or any other, workaround to it, I will definitely consider it. The next profile we're looking at is from Ray. They are AR57 and world level 8. And then they wanted me to help with character builds as well as show off their builds. They mentioned, I believe my builds are pretty good, but the damage output is lacking and I don't know why. So yeah, we can take a look here. I can see that you are another C6 Furina enjoyer. Let's take a look at your Furina. Level 90, R1, And then 4-piece golden troop, C6 obviously, and then triple crowned. We love to see it. Their stats here, 82 to 248 crit ratio is like pretty crazy. It's like way better than mine, honestly. And then, but the ER is only at 123, which may or may not find some challenges depending on the team. I know that with C6 Furina, you do have a lower ER requirement, but sometimes I feel like I need some more ER, so if you feel like you don't have your burst up in time, maybe a little bit more ER wouldn't hurt. So for your artifacts, let's take a look here. Really good flower, a really good feather. Yeah, I mean, all of these are really good, honestly. So yeah, amazing build here. And next up, we've got Mawika, level 90. She is R1, 4-piece obsidian codex. And she's C2, which is awesome. And then double crowned skill and burst. Taking a look at your attributes, I mean, yeah, this is great. I guess there's a little bit of wasted ER there, but you know, sometimes you just can't help it. You do overcap on crit rate by about 5%, so if that's something you're wanting to min-max, I mean, you could do that if you wanted to, but otherwise, your artifacts are really good. We have a EM sand, which is good, assuming you're using her on a melt or a vape team. Attack goblet. I don't know if maybe a pyro damage goblet might be better. Like, I don't know what the differences are. If anyone wants to enlighten me in the comments, do let me know. But, you know, considering she is C2, she's gonna be super powerful anyway. Yeah, really, really good build. And then we've got Shilonen. Love Shilonen. She's one of my favorite characters. She is level 90 with R1, 4-piece Cinder City. She's also C2. And then 1-10-10 talents. Taking a look at her stats here. She does have a lot of ER. The crit ratio is respectable for her support build. She has a lot of defense, which is amazing. I have no comments. It's a good build. So taking a look at the artifacts here. Yeah, I mean, overall, I feel like she has what she needs. I don't think Shilonen's stats are like super picky. And then we've got Skirk, level 90, R2. That's great. And then 4-piece Marchose, so I'm assuming you use her with Furina. She is C0, and then 4-10-9 talents. And wow, your Skirk build is really, really amazing. With that Marchose crit rate bonus, you basically have 100% crit rate on top of 248 crit damage, which is crazy. So amazing job with this one. Oof, those defense rolls are a little painful to see, but I understand. Attack sand, attack goblet, and then crit damage circlet. It's really good Skirk. They also requested Kazuha and Escoffier builds. So we've got a level 90 Escoffier, R1, 4-piece golden troop, C0, 1-10-10 talents. You've got a lot of crowned talents on your account, which is really good. And then we've got an 88 to 190 crit ratio. Your ER is really high as well. Honestly, I think this is a really good Escoffier build. I have no comments again. Yeah, you've got the game down. Your artifacts are looking good. Oh, I guess you have an ER sand instead of an attack sand, so that's where you're getting all that ER from. I guess if you need to burst every rotation, then yeah, the ER sand would be helpful. But if you're using Escoffier with Furina and Skirk, Furina C6 does self-heal, so not really sure if you really need a burst every rotation. And there's an attack goblet as well. Unfortunately, no cryo goblet. And then, wow, that is a lot of attack rolls. Yeah, really solid Escoffier. I think all your builds are probably really good. But looking at your Kazuha here, we've got level 90, R1, 4-piece Viridescent, C0, and 147 talents. I mean, he has 600 EM. He has what seems to be a good amount of ER. I don't really know too much about the ins and outs of a Kazuha build. Yeah, so I don't really have any detailed comments about this build, but you know, looks all right to me. Looks good to me. You have a respectable amount of EM and a good amount of ER as well. And then this person also commented that they believe their builds are pretty good, which I agree they are, but the damage output is lacking, and I don't know why. I'm not sure what you mean by lacking. You know, I feel like your Mavuika should be hitting several 100,000 bursts, if not more. You know, your Furina is gonna be a really like top SS tier support here. Same with your Shilonen, same with your Escoffier. I'm surprised your Miko and Raiden aren't leveled up. Yeah, I don't know, if your builds, if your damage output is lacking, maybe it's something more to do with your team setups or your rotations. If you have maybe some ER issues. Yeah, unfortunately there's not much more I can comment on about that, just because I don't know what teams you're using. I don't know the rotations you're using. If you're seeing this, you know, feel free to comment and further explain, and I could try to help you, or maybe other commenters can try to help as well. But I think your builds are really good. Congrats on your C6 Furina. Congrats on all your constellations, honestly. It's really awesome to see. Yeah, good luck with your build, and I hope that you're able to fix your damage or be more satisfied with the amount of damage you're doing. The next Q&A question is, what are some characters that are on your wish list for ZZZ, Genshin, and HSR? Yeah, so for Genshin, okay, so future Jinju checking in here. I have to re-answer this question because my answer for the Genshin part is a little outdated now that the nod-krai trailer is out. Yeah, that nod-krai trailer was crazy. I'm super excited for so many characters. My wish list just grew like tenfold. So what's on my wish list now is I am 100% getting Columbina, at least C0R1. I want to get Alice at least C0R1. I want to get Sandrone at least C0R1. So yeah, I'm in for a lot next version, but that's not all. I also really want to get Lauma, the deer lady. I want to get Nefer, the green girl. I really want to get Durin as well. And then lastly, I also want to get Nicole. So yeah, I'm gonna be very, very broke during nod-krai. Alright, now let's go back to my original recording. Yeah, and in terms of like already released or older characters, I feel like I kind of have everyone that I really do want. Like I feel like I feel like Chiori and Emily were kind of like the last two that I really wanted to get. Any of the older characters that I don't have, it's like I would love to have them on my account, but I don't know if I would go as far as to pull for them. So that's my Genshin wishlist for now. And then for HSR, honestly, I don't really have an outstanding HSR wishlist. I'll probably just wait for the next version. I don't know if maybe like a 5-star March 7th would be something I might consider, depending on like what she does or what she enables. Oh, I completely forgot. I'm trying to get Saber on HSR right now. I lost her first 50-50 to my E2 Fushun, so I really want to get Saber, but I'm not like buying any crystals for it, so it might take some time to pull for her. That's for HSR. And then for ZZZ, I really want Yanagi, and I will 100% pull for her when she reruns very soon. Other than Yanagi, I don't think I really care for any of the older or previous characters. I know that there's that green-haired lady from the recent quest, and I really, really love her design, so I really hope that she's playable, because I am 100% gonna pull for her. And then a follow-up question I have here is, have you pulled for Finon, and who's your favorite HSR character? I have not pulled for Finon. I did just like do his trial, and I think it's kind of insane. His special effects are like actually insane, but I don't really care for male characters, so not pulling for him. And then my favorite HSR character is Aglaya. I have an E1 Aglaya. The next profile I'll be reviewing is from RICEISGOOD. I agree, love Rice. They are AR58, world level 9. They requested some character build help as well as team building. They said here, I need help building Navia, Mavuika, and Kave. I want to improve my Yanfei build to make her more of a DPS. Okay, so let's take a look at Navia first. So Navia's level 80. Of course, we do want to level her up to 90 to maximize her damage. She is on a sacrificial greatsword, R2. Her artifacts is a 2-piece attack, 2-piece golden troop, C0, and then 2/6/2 talents. Yeah, I mean, I feel like in terms of your Navia, you still do just need to like max her out in her level, her weapon level, and then like her talents, of course. I see her artifacts. There are some level 16 artifacts here. Just the one, I guess. But anyway, yeah, you do want to max those out if you can. For her weapon though, I don't know if this is the best option. I guess you can potentially get an extra skill proc with this weapon. However, you're gonna need a lot of like crystallizes before you do that skill proc anyway, so I don't know how useful having that many skills really is on Navia. You also mentioned that you have very limited claymores, so any tips for the claymore characters would be great. You could potentially use, if you have the event weapon, the magic Melusine one, I forgot what it's called, but it's like the golden one where you do the Melusine quests and you get like extra attack bonus from doing their quests. I think that could be a decent option. If you have the serpent spine from the battle pass, I think that's a good option, although I know that that's not necessarily free to play. But yeah, I would say in terms of the best 4-star claymore, it'll probably be the serpent spine if you have it. Maybe if you have any other like standard 5-star claymores could be an option, like Skyward Pride even I'm seeing here on this build guide. I'm even seeing on this list here an R5 Tidal Shadow, which is a 4-star weapon, but if you use a Tidal Shadow you do need a healer. So yeah, there are a couple of options here which I think might be better than using your sacrificial greatsword, so that's something that you might want to consider switching up. And then with your artifact set, I feel like a 2-piece attack and 2-piece golden troop is like fine. Not sure if you really need any help here. That's a really good flower. Your attack sand is really good, your geo damage really good, and your circlet is really good. Yeah, overall, I feel like your artifacts are pretty good. And of course, you know, leveling up your talent, your skill to level 8, maybe increase a burst just a little bit could be good. Next up, I'll look at your Mawika. I mean, she's only level 50, so I don't know really how much I'll be able to comment. She is on the Rain Slasher. The EM will be good if you're using her on a vape team, especially because of the passive ability on this weapon where it gets increased damage against opponents affected by Hydro. So I think this claymore is perfectly usable. 4-piece Obsidian Codex is good, C0, and then your talents aren't leveled. Of course, you do want to focus on the burst talent level. Her skill talent level is also very important. Oh, I forgot to look at your Navia stats here. Yeah, I feel like your Navia stats are like solid. I think this is okay. And then anyway, back to Mawika. Let's take a look at your artifacts. I mean, I feel like you know what you're doing with your artifacts. It's just a matter of like luck. So yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to comment here. I can see you're using an attack sand, which I think is fine since you're using an EM claymore. So as long as you're using your Mawika on a vape team, I think this build will be perfectly okay. I think she'll be okay on a melt team too, but then of course you're losing that damage bonus from the weapon passive, but melt is so strong anyway, I feel like she'll be fine. And then you also requested Kaveh help, but honestly, I know literally nothing about Kaveh. Like, I don't even know what his kit even is, so I'm so sorry, but I cannot help you too much with this. If there are any Kaveh mains, you know, please help Rice out here with their Kaveh build. Kaveh is, I mean, I can see that Kaveh's talents need some leveling up, so you do want to focus on leveling up the talents here to increase your damage and or supportive capabilities. And then you also mentioned you want to improve your Yanfei build to make her more of a DPS. For some OG viewers of my channel, you know that my first video was building my Yanfei, so I'd love to come back and look at another Yanfei. So she's level 90. We've got a level 90 Lost Prayer. I think this is good. And then 4-piece Wanderer's Troop. She is C6, and then her talents are 8, 10, 10. Her stats are 54 to 200, which is quite impressive, honestly. You might potentially want to increase your crit rate a little bit, even if you sacrifice some crit damage, just because you don't want to miss critting your charge attacks. And then I don't think Yanfei needs like a crazy amount of ER, but maybe a little bit more ER could be helpful. just because her burst does do some damage and it like refreshes her stacks, I believe, for her charge attacks. Taking a look at her artifacts, I mean, these are some really good rolls. I can see you have a lot of EM focus. So she has 390 EM, which I feel like is a lot of EM. I don't know if you need that much. So I'm thinking maybe you can switch out your EM sand for an attack sands, and that could help, especially if there are cases where you might miss a vape or two. Just having that extra attack will help, just because your attack is on the lower end here. But overall, I think your Yanfei build is quite solid. If you make any changes, they're gonna be pretty minor anyway. I think your builds are all fairly good. Thank you so much, Rice, and good luck with your builds. We've got another question here, which is a very fun question. If you could live in any region from Genshin, where would you stay? Good question. I thought about this already actually, and it's hard for me to just choose one. I really like Inazuma for their culture, for their food and their scenery, but of course this would have to be like post Vision Hunt, you know? And then I also love Fontaine for its technology and like industrialization. For example, they have the Aqua Bus, which I don't know if other regions have anything like that, at least not for just like the regular people. And then of course I also love Natlan because of their community. They certainly have the best community, and then their culture and food as well. So sorry about the non-answer, but I think those three regions would be my top choices if I were to live somewhere in Genshin. And then another question I have here is, how do you explore or grind primos so well? For me, it takes like 3 hours just to explore 1%. Okay, I mean, in terms of exploration, I don't know, I just wander around and just open like every single chest I see. So I feel like if I do that, I get a pretty decent amount of exploration percentage just by opening all the locked chests that I come across. And then of course, doing world quests for the regions will also unlock a decent amount of exploration percentage points, because some areas are locked to that world quest. As far as the grinding primos, I mean, I do a combination of exploring and events, and I'm also not free to play. I always have like a welcome, and I do buy crystals on occasion as well. So all the primos that you've seen on my account, they're not purely like from exploration or grinding. Of course, if you don't have the treasure compass, which you get from the reputation rewards per region, you do want to get that treasure compass, because that is gonna really help a lot with your exploration. The next profile here is Nilo. They are AR 45, so just about to start the late game here. They are world level 4. However, they left a note here that says they are scared to do the Ascension quest because they want to make sure that they have a proper team first, which I completely understand. I was like that as well before, being scared to upgrade the world level. So they requested some team building help as well as just some general character build help. The characters shown in my profile are my main characters or characters I plan to build, is another note that they left. So I'm assuming they're a Wriothesley main, since he's the first here and also the profile picture. So we've got a level 80 Wriothesley, prototype Amber, and then Marechaussee 2-piece and Wanderer's Troop 2-piece. No cons, and then 533 talents. So I don't know too much about Wriothesley since I don't own him, but I'll do my best here to help you. Okay, so crit rate 31, crit damage 124, ER 104. So the main thing I can say here is, since you are AR 45, you're gonna probably want to start farming for 5-star artifacts for your main characters. I know it's kind of a big task to take on, so don't feel like you need to rush through it. You can use a mixture of 5-star and 4-star artifacts for the time being. I think that's something that you can start to focus on in terms of your character builds. Some of them are just not built yet, and most of them only have 4 or 3-star artifacts. So let's start getting those 5-star artifacts from the domains, and you can also use the artifact strong box. As for your Wriothesley, for damage purposes, you're probably going to want to use something like the Mapamare or the Widsith, depending on your team, so we'll get to that in a second. And then for your artifact set, you probably do want to get a 4-piece Marechaussee Hunter, Let's take a look at your stats and make sure you have all the right main stats. For your sands, you're gonna want to get an attack sands probably, or an EM sand if you do like a melt team, but we'll talk about that also in a second. But yeah, I think attack sands would probably be the best way to go here. No HP sands, cryo damage is good, and then crit is also good. And then of course you do want to level up your talents over time as well, placing a focus on, I believe, is the normal attack. So I don't know what team you're using Wriothesley on right now. However, you could probably, if you want to use a melt team, you could do like a Wriothesley, Bennett, Xiangling, and then like maybe a healer or a shielder. But I see you also have Shenhe, so if you wanted to use your Shenhe to power up your Wriothesley, you could do that. And then I feel like Ganyu kind of occupies a similar like team setup as Wriothesley. You might have to kind of use them like interchangeably on the same team, which I know it kind of sucks because then you only have one team still. Or you might be able to whip something up using like your Shenhe or your Layla or your Chongyun perhaps. It's a little tough because you're still kind of in the early game. I think at this point you don't need to stress too much about doing the Spiral Abyss or anything. Just kind of do what you can and kind of focus on building the characters that you do want to main. I think Gaming is also a potentially good Pyro DPS if you wanted to build him. Although, you know, you do need to like his playstyle because I know he has a pretty unique plunging attack playstyle. I think working on getting those 5-star artifacts, you know, leveling up your characters or upgrading your weapons will be more important. I'm so sorry if this wasn't super duper helpful. Unfortunately, I don't know too much about Wriothesley or Ganyu, but I wish you the best of luck. The next question I have here is, if you're able to create an official character for Genshin, what would it look like? Really interesting question. I have no idea. I'm not gonna lie, I have no idea. However, if I were to maybe compare to like HSR, I would love to see a character that kind of looks like Aglaya or like Himeko. And then a follow-up question I have here is, what are you most excited for about nod-krai? And what are your thoughts on upcoming playstyles and Genshin lore? So nod-krai, I'm definitely excited for, first of all, the brand new characters. Also excited about the new lore drops. Obviously, I'm sure and I hope that nod-krai will be full of, you know, really interesting and detailed lore, kind of wrapping up previous stories that we've gotten, because I know that that's what the Genshin devs did say that they wanted to do with nod-krai before we head into Snezhnaya. As for upcoming playstyles, I really hope that they add the cryo and dendro reaction or any other new reaction really. It would just be really fun. I feel like dendro definitely needs an upgrade now that hyperbloom is kind of falling off. Yeah, I'm just really excited about all the new characters and stories to come. The next profile we'll be looking at is eavin. Hopefully I said that right. They are AR60 and we're level 9, and then they requested some help with team building as well as showing off character builds. Here's what they said. They need help with teams for Stygian Onslaught, Dire Difficulty for Topa and Lava Dragon. My Skirk Freeze team is so close, but I just can't get there. And then they did list some other characters that they have that are not on the showcase. Their mains are Chiori, Wriothesley, Cloran, and Arlecchino. For a second, I thought you were talking about like the Fearless, like the level 5 difficulty, which is like maybe I can help with. But for Dire difficulty, I haven't even attempted it, nor do I think I can even pass it. So I don't know how helpful I would be for that. However, I'm assuming your builds are like really good. So let's take a look at your builds here. So you're a C6 Chiori main. I love it. She is on R1. She's on a 4-piece Husk of Opulent Dreams, which I'm assuming that's like her best in slot for a C6, right? If you look, I've seen that somewhere. Triple crowned. So taking a look at her stats, I don't know very much about C6 Chiori. Like I don't really know what she does at that level, but it looks pretty crazy to me. And then Wriothesley, another one of your mains. You do have the R1 4-piece Marchese, and you have C2 triple crown. Yeah, and then again your stats here are really good too. And I forgot to look at your Chiori artifacts. I keep forgetting to look at the artifacts. Let's see. Very nice. That's a crazy feather. Yeah. Yep. And I have nothing to say. It's a good build. And then your Riceley build over here. Your Riceley artifacts. Wow, this cryo damage is crazy. This is pretty insane. Congratulations on that cryo goblet. Okay, and then your Arlecchino. You have a R3 Primordial Jade-Winged Spear, 4-piece Harmonic Whimsy. You have a C1 Arlecchino. She is normal attack and burst crowned. And yeah, super solid build here as well. You said Cloran was your other main. So we have a R1 Cloran, Harmonic Whimsy, C1, and then double crown skill and burst. And then these are the substats, although I guess with the lack of ER, maybe it's a little hard to burst sometimes. I don't know too much about Cloran C1, but anyway, overall the build is very powerful for sure. So in that sense, like, I don't know how much I'll really be able to help with your dire difficulty, considering I don't have experience with it myself. I mean, you said you're really close with your Skirk Freeze team, so I feel like at that point it's kind of like a rotation or a ER issue, especially because your builds seem pretty good. It's just like really min-maxing both your substats as well as min-maxing your rotations. You know, I'd say don't be too upset about not being able to pass dire difficulty, because it's such a whale level of combat there. And I mean, although you do have a number of constellations, I wouldn't necessarily call you a whale. You do have really good investment, but I think dire difficulty is just so hard for so many people, so don't worry about it too much. But for the Lava Dragon, obviously you have Emily. I don't know if your Emily is new or not, but no, you're definitely gonna want to use Emily with, I'm assuming your Arlecchino, because I don't think you have a Malwika. You could probably use like Arlecchino, Emily, Bennett, and Shangling or something just for all that extra pyro application. Although I feel like you might already be using a team like that for the Hydrotopa, but you could, you know, use a Chiori Shilonen sort of wheelchair team, and then maybe your Riceley. I feel a little bit out of my depth here trying to coach you on the dire difficulty when I don't know how to do it myself. But I did enjoy looking at your builds though. I think your builds are really good. And best of luck. And last but not least, we have a build from Zin. So Zin is from the Asia server, which is why I am here on the Akasha network. Just by looking at this like overview, I can already tell that their builds are going to be really, really good. They said that they wanted to show off their Arlecchino and Skirk build. So let's take a look here. Going over to Arlecchino. So Arlecchino, level 90. Also a R5 level 90 white tassel, C0, and then the crit ratio is pretty crazy here. It's a 98 to 201. That's like a perfect 1-to-2 ratio, honestly. So that's like really impressive, on top of 111 energy recharge, which is also a respectable amount. Looks like their Arlecchino build is top 5% for their like bracket here. I believe that's based on like the weapon and or like ER levels or something, but anyway, really, really impressive build. Taking a look at their individual artifacts here, so they have a 4-piece gladiator, but look at this flower. 10% crit rate, 29% crit damage. Wow, yeah, that is a absolutely cracked artifact. And then I mean, their gladiator artifacts are also quite insane. Feather, the attack sands. I'm very envious of their pyro goblet. Yeah, like every single one of these artifacts are just really, really good. I have no words, honestly. This is a fantastic build. And even though it is a free-to-play build with the white tassel, I mean, those stats, I am very envious of this crit ratio. So that was their Arlecchino, and then they also wanted me to take a look at Skirk. So taking a look here. I don't know if this is updated or not, because it says Skirk is level 80. I'm not sure if maybe they just haven't leveled Skirk to 90, but either way, Skirk is using Absolution, R1, and this Skirk is top 1% in her bracket. I mean, this crit ratio is pretty crazy at 50% crit rate to 303 crit damage. Of course, with the Murashosei Hunter artifact set, that crit rate bumps up to like 86. So like an 86 to 303 crit ratio is pretty insane. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you roll these artifacts because like this attack sand, these rolls are super high. Yeah, I mean, all these artifacts are just fantastic. Yeah, so they only really requested their Skirk and Arlecchino, but maybe I'll just take a quick look-see at their other builds as well. Taking a look at their I'll Hate Them with an R5 Iron Sting. I don't know anything about I'll Hate Them, but it says here he's in the top 2% of his bracket. The artifact rolls here are also amazing. Oh yeah, and I forgot to add, they also wanted me to check out their Pyro Traveler, which is an interesting request. But looks like this Pyro Traveler is on Obsidian Codex. So it's a DPS Pyro Traveler, which is quite interesting. Yeah, this crit ratio is pretty insane for a Traveler, I guess. It's a 56 to 208 crit ratio, and then with the Obsidian Codex's like 40% add-on, that's like almost 100% crit rate. So I am very curious as to how this Traveler performs like in combat. That's really interesting because I typically see them on like Cinder City as a support character, but I really wonder how much damage a DPS Traveler can do. This is a really cool build, honestly. I've been thinking of building my Pyro Traveler a little bit just to be like a better support. Yeah, this is kind of inspiring me to work on my Traveler. Thank you so much, Zen, for showing off your builds. I'm very inspired by your Traveler, and I hope that one day my Arlecchino can have artifacts as good as yours. And then the last Q&A question I have here for you guys today is, how do you find time to play Genshin or understand how to build the characters? And how do you prevent or deal with burnout from Genshin? So first, how do I find the time to play Genshin? I do have like a full-time job outside of this YouTube channel, so I'm usually playing in the evenings or playing on the weekends. I'm not really playing for like hours and hours a day on Genshin at least, because I do play like 3 different gacha games, so I do kind of at least do the daily commissions for those. And then Genshin, I am quite behind on quests. My exploration is very far from being maxed out, so I'm not that much of a completionist on Genshin as much as you might think, but I do mainly focus my time on building my characters. You know, I make sure to always use my resin. And then how do I understand how to build the characters? So for that, I'm not doing this just off the top of my head. I am definitely looking up guides. And as for the guides that I use, I always refer to Kaching Mains, which is a really popular guide website for Genshin. I also refer to the Genshin Impact Helper Team character build spreadsheet. So this is a Google Sheets like spreadsheet that is being updated, but I'll leave links to these guides in the description in case you guys want to take a look at them. But this is where I typically find my build information. And then of course I also refer to build guides that I find on YouTube. I typically look at Jello Impact or I Win to Lose Gaming's videos. And then lastly, how do you prevent or deal with burnout from Genshin? So yeah, that's a great question. I think that it's perfectly normal to experience burnout from Genshin. It's such a huge game. It's such a time sink, honestly. Like, trust me, I am spending so many hours of my life in this game. But I think for me, I just really love the game. But of course, I'm not like playing hours and hours on end, like day in, day out. There are many days where I basically just log in, do my commissions, do my resin, and log out. Even if doing that burns you out, like don't feel obligated to do it. You know, you shouldn't be treating Genshin as your job or anything. I know that there's that FOMO that you might miss out on like events or character releases or something. I'm so sorry if this isn't the best answer for you, but basically I just want to say, like, if you feel like you need to take a break, just take the break, okay? Like, just take the break. It's just a game, so you know, your real life and your mental energy is so much more important than keeping up with these anime character banners, you know? Hopefully you're able to find a good balance between your enjoyment of the game as well as your enjoyment of life. If you guys watched this far into the video, and if you have any tips or advice for any of the builds that I showcased, If you want to correct any of my inaccuracies, please feel free to comment down below. If you have any other questions for me or my channel, feel free to comment down below as well. Stay tuned for more cozy Genshin content, so be sure to subscribe to my channel and like the video. I'm sorry that I couldn't get to all of the applications, but I will try to do another one of these videos sometime in the future, so hopefully I can review some more of your accounts. If you guys enjoyed this kind of video and want something again like this, do let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and see you next time.